You know that feeling, right? That constant little buzz of pressure to get everything just right.
Oh,
Your career, relationships, even like personal goals.
yeah.
It feels like if it's not absolutely perfect, it's just, well, not good enough. But maybe you started thinking, like I have, if chasing that perfection is actually, I don't know, holding us back, tripping us up.
That's exactly what we're digging into today. We've been looking at some really interesting excerpts from a book called The Liberating Embrace: How to Embrace Imperfection and Learn from Mistakes.
Okay? And, it's not about just throwing your hands up and settling for
Right.
less. Not at all.
Right.
It's about understanding that accepting our humanness, our flaws, the fact that we will mess up sometimes, that can actually be a really powerful path.
A path to what, though?
To, well, genuine growth, real resilience, and honestly, a more authentic and fulfilling life.
Okay, I like the sound of that. So it's not just a nice idea then. No, the source really gets into the why this shift works, and maybe more importantly for listeners, the how. How you can actually start doing this.
Gotcha. So our mission for this deep dive is basically to pull out those key insights, those practical strategies.
Exactly.
So that you, listening right now, can maybe start seeing those little imperfections, those mistakes, not as like failures, but maybe even as, I don't know, opportunities.
That's the goal. So maybe let's start by unpacking this whole idea of perfectionism first.
Yeah, let's do that.
Because the source makes a really crucial point. It often looks like a good thing, right? Like you're driven, you want excellence.
Sure, sounds positive.
But if you dig a little deeper, like really look underneath, it's often rooted in something else entirely. Fear, mostly.
Fear. Fear of what?
Fear of being judged, fear of failing, that little nagging voice worrying you're just not, good enough.
Okay, yeah. Let's really get into that fear part because, well, it resonates, doesn't it?
It does for most people, I think.
You find yourself obsessing over every tiny detail on that work project.
Yeah.
Stressing about making sure everything is just so for that dinner party. Pushing yourself constantly to keep up this, like, flawless image.
Right.
But what the book starts showing is how damaging that constant chase really is. It's not just about working hard.
Exactly. The downsides are pretty significant, actually. Think about the constant anxiety and stress that comes with it.
Yeah, that baseline hum of worry.
Always worried about falling short. It kind of hijacks your peace, doesn't it? Turns every little thing into a potential disaster zone.
Totally. And then there's procrastination, which seems counterintuitive.
Oh, it's huge. That fear of not doing it perfectly. It can totally paralyze you. You just don't start.
Right. Because the standard feels impossibly high, so why bother? And the book also mentions creativity and taking risks.
Yes. If you're terrified of making a mistake, you're obviously going to stick to the safe options, the things you know.
No room for experimenting.
None. That fear just shuts down innovation. And think about how it affects how we see ourselves.
Our self-esteem.
Definitely. If you're always focused on your flaws, your slip-ups, your perceived failures, it just chips away at your self-worth.
So your value becomes tied to being perfect, which is, well, impossible.
Utterly impossible. And it's exhausting. That leads straight to burnout, trying to maintain that perfect image 24/7.
Right. And relationships suffer too, the book says.
They can, yeah. Holding yourself to these crazy standards often means you consciously or unconsciously hold others to them too.
Oof. Creates friction.
It really can. But the source pivots here, and it's important. It says something like, the truth is, embracing imperfection and learning from our mistakes is not a sign of weakness.
Okay, so that's the turn. That leads us to the flip side, the power in actually embracing imperfection.
Exactly. It sounds a bit strange at first, maybe, but there are real tangible benefits when you choose self-acceptance, warts and all.
Okay, let's hear them. What are the payoffs?
Well, interestingly, a lot of them directly counter the downsides of perfectionism we just talked about. Like, number one, less stress and anxiety.
Makes sense. If you let go of needing everything perfect.
You can breathe. There's a kind of calm that comes when you accept that, things might be a bit messy sometimes.
I feel calmer just thinking about it. And resilience. The book mentioned that.
Big time.
Yeah.
When you accept mistakes as just part of the deal, part of being human.
Yeah.
You bounce back quicker from setbacks. They stop feeling like these huge dramatic failures and more like information.
Like data points, yeah, okay.
And that naturally leads to more self-compassion. Instead of beating yourself up after a stumble.
Which is my go-to move.
Mine too, sometimes. But instead, you start treating yourself with a bit more kindness, like you would a friend. That's crucial for actually moving forward.
Okay. Kindness, resilience, what else? Creativity again.
Yes. Because you're less afraid of being wrong, you're more willing to play, to experiment, to try things that might not work.
You give yourself permission to explore without that constant judge on your shoulder.
Exactly. And connections with people. The book says being authentic, showing your imperfections.
Makes you more relatable.
Totally. People connect with realness, not some perfect, polished image. Vulnerability actually builds stronger bonds.
That's a really key insight. People want genuine.
They do. And overall, it helps you accept yourself more deeply. Your worth isn't tied just to your flawless performance.
Right. It's about who you are, not just what you achieve perfectly.
Precisely. And finally, you get to actually, enjoy the process more.
How so?
Well, if you're not just hyper-focused on the perfect end result, you can appreciate the journey, the learning, the small steps along the way. There's more joy in the doing.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Which brings us nicely to the connection between accepting imperfection and actively learning from mistakes.
Yes, they're two sides of the same coin, really. The source is very clear. Mistakes aren't failures to be ashamed of. They're valuable information.
Potential stepping stones, not dead ends.
Yeah, exactly that phrase. Stepping stones.
So how do we actually do that? Stumble into a step up. The book gives practical steps.
Yeah, it does. A really clear process, actually. Let's walk through them. Step 1 is just acknowledging it, owning the mistake.
Okay, no blaming the weather or Mercury retrograde.
Right. No defensiveness. Just, okay, this happened and I played a part. Taking responsibility, even when it's uncomfortable, is actually really empowering.
How so?
It puts you back in control. You're not a victim. You're someone who can learn and adapt.
Okay, step 1, own it. Step 2.
Resist the urge to beat yourself up. Actively cultivate self-compassion.
Easier said than done sometimes.
Oh, definitely. Recognize your role, yes, but don't just dwell on harsh self-criticism. Treat yourself kindly, like you'd treat a friend.
Okay, self-compassion is key. Got it. Step 3.
Analyze the situation. Really dissect it. The book has great questions for this.
Like what?
Like, what was I actually trying to achieve here? What exactly went wrong? What factors contributed both things I did and, external stuff?
Okay, getting specific.
Very specific. And crucially, looking back, what could I maybe have done differently?
So it's a proper postmortem, but without the blame.
Precisely. It's about deep understanding, not just pointing fingers, especially not at yourself. Then step 4 flows from that. Identify the lessons.
What did I actually learn from this?
Exactly. What new knowledge did you gain? New skills? A different perspective? Are there processes that need changing?
So you're actively looking for the value hidden in the mistake.
Mining it for gold, basically. Then step 5 is turning that into an action plan.
Okay, so what will I do differently next time?
Yes. Based on those lessons, make a concrete plan. Maybe you need a new skill, maybe a different strategy, maybe just adjusting your approach.
Make it tangible.
Right. And step 6 is, actually doing it.
Implementing the changes, the hard part.
Often, yes. It takes conscious effort to apply what you've learned when you're back in a similar situation.
Okay. Step 7.
Seek feedback. Ask people you trust for their perspective, constructive criticism.
Ooh, vulnerability again.
Yep. But others might see things you missed. Blind spots. It can be incredibly helpful.
True. Okay, step 8.
This is a big mindset shift. Actively choose to view the mistake as an opportunity for growth, not a failure.
Reframe it consciously.
Every time,
Yeah.
See it as essential information for getting better. It really lessens the fear around messing up again.
Okay, almost there. Step 9.
Share your learnings. When it feels right, of course.
Why share them?
Well, it helps you solidify your own understanding, plus it can help others. It fosters a culture where it's okay to learn from mistakes.
Normalizes it a bit, takes away the shame.
Exactly. And finally, step 10, which is so important for moving on.
Let me guess. Forgiveness.
You got it. Forgive yourself. And forgive others if they were involved. Holding on to resentment or guilt just weighs you down.
Let it go to move forward. Makes sense.
Absolutely. It frees up so much energy. Now, the book really stresses that this isn't like a one-and-done thing.
Right, it's a practice.
An ongoing practice. Cultivating this mindset of growth and acceptance takes conscious, consistent effort.
So what are some practical things we, the listeners, can do day to day to build this muscle?
Great question. The book has some good suggestions. First, start noticing and challenging those perfectionistic thoughts.
Catching that inner critic in the act.
Exactly. Become aware of it. Question those unrealistic expectations. Gently push back on that self-deprecating voice.
Okay, challenge the thoughts. What else?
Shift your focus. Instead of aiming for perfect, focus on progress. Celebrate the small wins, the effort you put in.
Appreciate the journey, not just the destination we talked about earlier.
Precisely. Find satisfaction in the trying, in the learning. Another one is to consciously reframe failures.
See them as learning opportunities, like we discussed.
Make it a deliberate mental habit. See mistakes as feedback, valuable feedback.
Okay. And self-compassion practice.
Make it a daily thing. Be